Thanks for making us a part of your morning. This is Good Morning PD on Live 95.
Welcome back to Good Morning PD Live 95. A lot to talk about. We got a couple of things to do with the Mueller investigation. We got the president making some comments. We've got a story that we talked very, very little about, and that is John McCain's associate. Earlier this week, invoked his Fifth Amendment rights and privileges as it relates to what he knows about the Trump dossier.
Really?
I hate to say I told you so, but if you go back to my belief early on that John McCain had something to do with the FBI getting their hands on this dossier and it being blessed as part of potentially securing a FISA warrant. We believe, or I believe, no evidence to suggest this, but hearsay, that McCain was very active and his people were very active in making sure this dossier was given more legitimacy than it probably should have been. But I want to go back to this gun debate because it'll dominate the majority of our political universe for the next couple or 3 weeks. I said yesterday the NRA reported more visits to their website in a 5 or 6 day period than they've ever had. And here's where you're going to find out how badly misrepresented the NRA has been in the mainstream media, because we're led to believe it's a bunch of people behind a curtain somewhere who write big checks and just want any gun in anybody's hand, regardless of your abilities and mental aptitudes and all this sorts of things. And that's the way the NRA has been portrayed by the left and the media. But I want to go back and encourage people, and I mean this sincerely. I'm not saying you have to be as weird as I am about it, but it's worth your time to read at least some, I don't know, a paraphrasing, an edited version of Scalia's opinion. I think you will more clearly understand the intent of the Second Amendment. I've not had many moments of, realization until I read Scalia's opinion. I mean, the majority of things we talk about, I have some working knowledge and understanding of whatever it is, whether it's immigration reform. I feel like I'm versed enough. I'm not an expert. I don't profess to be an expert. I'm not an expert on, the Second Amendment or gun control or this debate we're having. I'm not an expert on tax reform. It's probably something I understand better than I do the Second Amendment. But I would encourage anybody who wants to better understand and more clearly understand what the intent of the Second Amendment was and what the U.S. Supreme Court said in regards to that, read some of the Heller decision and Scalia's majority opinion. It's very interesting. Believe it or not, the left doesn't believe this, but there are smart people on the right side. There are some people on the right with IQs over 50 or 60. And I know the left believes they've monopolized intelligence and aptitude, and as long as they believe that, we'll all be okay, because that's to their disadvantage. That's the great misgiving of the arrogant intellectual liberal. They do believe with every fiber of their being that they're smarter than all of us are collectively. And as long as they believe that, we'll all be okay on our side. People that worry me, and I think I've told you this before, the Bill Maher's of the world, who are beginning to understand these people aren't crazy. I mean, all these people that voted for Trump, you think they're a bunch of, NASCAR Neanderthals and knuckle draggers and cavemen and, spit in the floorboard of their car. Well, as long as we believe that, then we've got problems. Well, Bill Maher's beginning to understand that that is not the right. That is not the conservative voter. The conservative voter, by and large, is somebody who wants this country to adhere to some basic principles and values derived from what? From the Constitution. But I think when you start, and Alec asked an interesting question, and I made a note, because he's always wanted to put these things online, and I hardly ever remember what I said 2 minutes ago, much less, 2 days ago. The left doesn't want any of this fixed. I'm not insinuating nor suggesting that the left wants children killed in a school. I would never say that. The left does not want the immigration debate to end. The left does not want the debate about the Second Amendment to end. The left does not want to come up with a solution to the way we tax our citizens in private sector, because the left's entire agenda is based on emotion. It's an emotional position that they hold. It's not a practical political position. The left has no interest in working toward whatever version of gun control we come up with, or reasonable gun laws. I hesitate to say gun control, reasonable gun laws. The left has no interest in that. Why, Rev? Because once you fix things, you become far less emotional about it. It's not an issue anymore. You've got that fixed. The left has no interest in immigration reform. I mean, the president proposed one of the most reasonable immigration policies you could imagine. The left found something wrong with it because they know the only way they garner influence and power is if they can prey on people's emotions. And the more things that are unsettled, the more emotional people are. It's not a coherent governing philosophy. I said that for 5 years. It's an emotional disorder. That is what American liberalism is about today. They drank the Kool-Aid of the 5-star president that was Barack Obama. He convinced them that he could transform this country, that he could lead this country in the most leftist direction imaginable if we only preyed on people's emotions enough. They don't want solutions. They have no interest in solving the immigration problem in America. They have no interest in solving the taxation problem in America. They have no interest in solving the gun violence problem in America, because if you do that, what are you emotional about? What do you prey on people's emotions with? And that's their whole governing philosophy. The more people that are emotionally concerned, guess what? The better off their party is. So when you talk about practical solutions and coming up with things that would fix this or fix that or fix the other, you're never going to get the left on board with that. They don't want to be a part of that. Because once again, solutions fix problems. Problems are something that causes us to be emotional. So don't ever think that they've got an interest in being a part of a solution. They don't. It's all about this emotion. And I go back to something I said yesterday. I am real nervous about this country because of what has happened the past several days. We've got adults, educated, intellectual adults, believing that there's something of value in what a 14, 15, and 16, and 17. I believe these kids are earnest. I believe they're honest. I believe they're sincere. I think they should be allowed an opportunity to speak and vent and pronounce their opinions. But me as a 54-year-old adult, in one ear and out the other. My heart breaks. I hate with all my heart these kids have had to deal with this. But we're to the point now, the left believes we need to give serious consideration to what these kids say. And let's take what they say and let's create policy. And that goes back to my belief that we have become a very unserious people. Incredibly unserious. You can't be a serious person if you believe something a 14-year-old says is what should direct gun policy in America today. And we've got a large portion of our population who says, well, did you see what the 14-year-old said? Did you see what the 16-year-old said? Did you see what the 17-year-old said? I had someone debate me the other day. Well, some of these kids are 18. I mean, my point was, I'm not going to take advice on how to solve violence in America from a 15 or 16-year-old. And this is a liberal friend of mine said, well, some are 18. I said, okay, let me restate my remark. I'm not taking advice from a 15, 16, 17, or 18-year-old on what is best for this nation in regards to try and stop gun violence and mass shootings on schools or anywhere for that matter. But we've got an element in America, the left, the liberal side, who are so emotional, Reb, that they lose sight of reality. And practicality ceases to exist. I mean, say this. What would you trust a 17-year-old with? I mean, I've got, a daughter that will be 17 too fast for me. I've got two boys that were 17. I can tell you, in Pamplico terminology, what I trust them with, not a damn thing.
Not much.
Very little. But CNN wants us to engage these kids to see if we can come up with some sort of solution in relation to gun violence from 17-year-olds and 16-year-olds. It's ridiculous. But once again, it serves the purpose of motivating a certain element in society. Why? Because they know how emotional people are. I've always said this. This country would be so much better and life would be so much simpler and we would make so fewer mistakes if we were all Vulcans. If we operated on habits of logic and the nature of logic prevailed in our decision making. We're not Vulcans. We're emotional beings. We're emotionally moved. We're emotionally charged. And I said it yesterday and I'll say it again. Every decision in my life that I've made based on emotion has normally been a bad decision. And that's all the left operates under. That's the only way the left knows to operate. What do my emotions tell me? My emotions tell me that there are people all over the world deprived of opportunity, so let's let them into the country. My emotions tell me that there's 300 million guns in America, so guns must be the problem. My emotions tell me there are people in this country who live in mansions and have beach homes and 3 cars and others that don't have anything, and that ain't right. That's your emotions. Logically, you can't let everybody into this country. Guns don't kill people. People do. And what a man makes and earns fair and square, he's entitled to. But those are practical positions to have, logical positions to have, and liberalism in America today, and we're seeing it so evidently right now. They operate, and their operation and their opinions and their agendas are based on nothing but the emotion of the moment. And they're crazy enough to allow that emotion to insist that we listen to high school kids on how to solve gun violence in America today. Let's take a break. Thanks to Spherion. Spherion sponsors today's show. We appreciate them. If you're an employee looking for an employer looking for more employees, the economy is beginning to grow a little bit, thanks to former President Barack Obama. And, the recession he inherited. The recovery that Trump kind of is in the middle of, he inherited from. So Obama didn't get any blame for the recession. No, it's all the credit for the turnaround. Back in a minute. Good morning, PD, 595.